is Jasmine Jones, and I am a licensed clinical social worker, and you're now watching Black Girl Therapists in the Wild. And this little show I like to call Therapist Sips and Reviews. And today we are reviewing The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster, and we are sipping on Kahlua and cream de cacao. Oh, that's strong. How y'all doing? So, a few of you have been asking me to do this movie. I watched it last year when it came out, and I watched it 3 more times today just to make sure I remember everything that happened. So, Wicked came out too, and I may or may not review that just because I just don't like some of the things that Cynthia Erivo has said about Black Americans and things like that. And, you know, if I do review it, just know that it will be reviewed from a place of, I watched this for free, so they didn't get no money from me. It's one of them type of movies, because I don't know, I just stand my ground on certain behaviors. Like, I don't have hatred towards people, but like when something you says goes against who I am integrally as a person, I just don't really, I don't fuck with them people. It's just like when Aquafina's in movies. I don't watch her movies. And you're just gonna double down and not admit that you're using black vernacular, and I don't want to watch your movies. And so someone else who puts on, Black American culture as a costume occasionally, but then, talk shit about us via tweets, I just don't feel excited about it. But I love Wicked. I saw the play. I read all the books. Like, I read all the books like an undergrad. Like, I'm a huge Wicked fan. I just wish that they had picked another black woman, any other black woman, to play Elphaba. But whatever. If I do review it, just know that I reviewed it from an online source where the money did not go into these people's pockets, because I just don't agree with this woman and her stance on what she feels about Black Americans. So maybe not, we'll see. Anyways, let's get into the movie. So this movie is about this little girl. I think her name is I'm gonna call her V, because her family called her V in the movie, and I can't remember what her name is. So she's basically has like hood trauma, right? Her mom got shot by gang members in the hood. Her brother got shot and killed by gang members, and like her brother getting shot and killed is like her last straw. She's also like very intelligent. She's like a super genius and stuff like that. And her theory, her hypothesis that she's going off of is she believes death is a disease, and everything else that comes before dying is the symptom of the disease of death. And so she thinks that she can stop death. So this is just like a remake of Frankenstein's monster. Black people are kind of set up in this movie to be seen as the monsters in general, not just the brother that she brought back to life, but just black people in general, how we're seen by the police, by white people, and then also how we see each other. This is a commentary on how we treat each other. The main focus is on gang violence and things like that, and not necessarily on direct white supremacy from white people, which is fine. I feel like there should be commentaries on how we treat each other as a people. There should be things out there that represent how white supremacy has infiltrated the black community and represents how it has affected us, so we can see ourselves and change. So I'm not mad about that. First, when I watched this movie, I was just like, a lot of the stuff she was doing just seemed impulsive. And then I had to remember, like, she's like a child. She's like 10th, 11th grade, maybe a senior. And yes, just because kids have book smarts doesn't take away from the fact that they're a kid and that they're going to do impulsive, nonsensical, emotional things, because they haven't had enough life wisdom to learn about how people behave and interact and the cause and effect of these interactions in the world. And so it started to make more sense to me why some of this stuff just seems like off the cuff, just like you go in and you collecting bodies in the hood when people get killed, and I guess the police don't come, and you collect the bodies. You got your brother in some like abandoned warehouse where, like, strapped up to a gurney, trying to like preserve him even though his body is decaying, and she's using these dead bodies to like preserve his body from decaying, and she's attaching these dead bodies to him. But it's just kind of like, basically what happens is she does end up waking him up, but he's basically like a zombie. He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know like how to talk. He been deteriorating for too long. She lives with her dad. Her dad's a really nice guy, and he's just going through it because he lost his wife, he lost his son. He just feels like a failure, so now he's back doing crack, and that's his coping skill. That's his, I guess it was crack. It was powdery, it may have been meth, but it was powdery, maybe it was crack, maybe it was cocaine. He was smoking it, so I'm gonna assume it was crack. Whatever it was, she feels like he has the symptoms that precede death now too. And so she's worried about her dad. And then she's at this school, this predominantly white institution. She goes to this like private school or something. It's mostly white kids there anyways. And she got this white teacher. This is the best part of the movie to me. I don't give a fuck what nobody said. So she got this white teacher, and she's in this science class, and the teacher's talking about cancer and stuff, right? And she's talking about like death and how death is actually the disease, and I could see it's interrupting class, but the way that this white woman handled it was off the charts. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I would have just been like, I understand that you want to talk about this in class right now, and maybe if I give you an assignment and you can write me a paper about it, but right now we're just talking about cancer. So can you lend the room to the teacher, and maybe this is a discussion we can kind of table for later. Maybe you can do a project on it or something like that, because I still need to get through the curriculum for the class so y'all can get your grades and get up out of here at the end of the semester. Some shit like that, like validate that she know what she's talking about and she's smart and everything, but at the same time we still need to get back to what the class is talking about. But no, this bitch was just started arguing with this child. And the child wasn't even arguing with her. She was just excited and passionate about talking about the subject that she's fixated on and shit. But this white woman can see through that. She just saw her as being the defiant monkey in her class. I know what it is. And so she's just like, oh no, you need to get out of my class. And then the girl didn't want to leave. And so she called security no. She told the girl to stop talking, and the girl didn't stop talking about it. So then she goes and calls security, and she was all like, I gave you a warning. And the girl's like, no, you didn't. And she was like, well, you can either decide to walk down to detention by yourself, or you can have security take you. And so she just sits there and sits back, and then the woman mispronounced her name. I think it's Vicaria. So I don't want to mispronounce it. I'm calling her V, but the woman mispronounces her name. She mispronounces every person of color's name in the school. Some bullshit. And so she's like, well, I'm just going to call you Vicky because, that's a name I can't remember. And then the girl gonna be like, well, then I'll just call you Miss Bitch, since we just calling each other whatever the fuck we want to call each other. We don't give a shit, which is valid. Why are you calling her something that she's not called? Like, her family calls her V. Everybody else outside her family can pronounce her name. Why is this teacher not actively learning how to pronounce? Because she's racist. Because she's a racist. So she calls security, and V don't want to leave the class. And she's just sitting there, She's not wilding out. She's not doing nothing. Security comes over, tells her to get up. She don't want to get up, so she just sits there. And then this nigga gonna drag her out her chair, break her glasses. And like the teacher want to get all like, oh no, like, bitch, fuck you. And so then like her dad comes up to the school, and I guess the teacher trying to act like, like how manipulative, abusive people try to act like nothing happened. She's all like, I love your last name, it sounds so beautiful, is that European? Dad just looks at her like, yeah. I was like, bitch, fuck you. And so anyways, Dad basically reads her the riot act and is like, this is a child. You are the teacher. If you had these niggas come put their hands on my child again, we gonna have some issues. I wanted her to hit that bitch in the face. Let that be my child. And this teacher called the fucking security and body slammed my motherfucker. The whole school would have been burnt down. Something would have happened to her. She would have disappeared. That's why I just want to make sure I have enough money. So when I have kids, if people need to disappear, they will disappear and no one will find them. I watch a lot of true crime. You're not fucking with my children. And so, the teacher is just shell shocked. She don't know what to do. And the dad is just so gentle with her. He helps her sit down in her seat. He helps her get up, and he loves his child. He's just a gentle man. And so, V is just gung ho now on bringing her brother back to life. There's this little boy that what tips it off is there's this little boy in a neighborhood that like was trying to get into her little abandoned warehouse situation to see what she's doing because he's nosy. And come to find out, a couple days later, the little boy ends up shot by gang violence in the damn street and shit. And like, she's watching him die in the street while they try to give him the defibrillators and shit. And I guess she gets her aha moment of using more electricity because the defibrillators work for a second, but he died anyways. And so like she go back into her little warehouse situation lab and she bring this nigga back to life and with electricity like Frankenstein and stuff. Now, her brother has a baby mama, and so the baby mama and her mom and her little sister and her little brother are all considered a part of V's family now because the girlfriend is pregnant with her brother's baby. And probably even before that because they all grew up in the projects together and stuff. So they considered each other all to be family and stuff like that. So, V brings her brother back to life and and this is how I knew this is the first moment I knew that she's a child. So basically, as soon as this nigga comes back to life, she's taking him to the drug lord person and breaking into the nigga's car to steal the drugs, talking about this is what's killing our dad and this is what killed you. This little plastic Bonds bag of drugs she steals out the car. But one of the dudes come out the house and see her and him and then try to be like, what's going on? And then shoots her brother, but he's like a zombie now, so he doesn't die. And so this nigga is like chokes him out. And like apparently his hands can burn you or some shit. I don't fucking know. So anyways, like she runs off when she sees him choking because she's a child. What is she supposed to do in that situation? She runs off back to her little lab situation. I guess at some point he followed her and she locked him in a lab. I don't know. But that's what I realized because it's like the course of this movie, like people just like Frankenstein's monster, like she's just trying to illustrate like they treated him like a monster so he became a monster, but it's like she treated him like the superhero right out of the fucking electricity, right out of the womb. He's like, I need you to get the drugs so our dad will, and it's like, no, he's not a superhero, he's not a monster, he's this new person in the world that got a bunch of people parts attached to him. And like he needs to take his time to get adjusted to the world, but she's a child, so she don't understand that shit. It's like if you watching the new season of What We Do in the Shadows, they got like this new little Frankenstein monster thing going on. And the first few episodes of the season, they just basically getting him adjusted to the world. They teaching him how to talk, how to walk, how to not be violent, how to not be impulsive. And that's all I could think about while I was watching this movie. I was just like, why you got him outside? Why you got him breaking into niggas' cars and shit? But then I had to be like, cause she's 15. This is what I be telling folks. Like them fucking predators that just be like, well, she knew what she was doing. She was 15. She knew what she was doing. She was 16. Like, no, she has a child mind. They don't have common sense like adults do because they have not been through the emotional turmoils that adults have been through and grown and changed and learned from those things. So they're impulsive. They're very black and white thinkers. Like, oh, if I wake him up, he's gonna be the same. No, he's not, honey. Like, even the girl that was his baby mama is looking at her like, and then if you bring people back to life, then what? And she was just like, what do you mean, then what? We have a new lease on life. And she was like, but you're gonna bring her back to life in this fucked up ass world, like it's because the same shit's just gonna happen. And so she said, like, she just like is a child. Teenagers do not have adult brains. They just be doing shit just to try it. There's a whole developmental period during teenage years where teenagers feel invincible. I was thinking about that shit the other day and I was like, I skipped that period because I watched a lot of movies as a kid and a lot of TV shows and a lot of documentaries, and I was scared to do drugs. I was scared to go to house parties. No, because I watched the Lifetime movies, and that one Lifetime movie where that girl got date raped in that basement by the football team, that shit fucked me up. I was just like, oh, that's what they do at the high school. I'm not going to that. I weighed a smooth 135 pounds, size 5. I couldn't have fought them niggas off. Like, what is you talking about? And so, like, I skipped that whole invincible period. I was a scaredy cat. Like, I wasn't about to, like, ditch class for what? What are we doing outside in the school outside of class? Like, I don't think I've ever ditched class because I didn't see the point of it. Like, and the people that did ditch class, it didn't look fun. You just wandering around the school just cause, like, for no reason. Like, that shit don't feel fun. Are you like getting high or some shit? Like, my goal was to hurry up and get the fuck up out of here, and the fastest way to get the fuck up out of here was to get good grades. Like, skipping class was not gonna get me good fucking grades. You know, if I skipped class, it was because my mom would let me skip like 1 or 2 days a semester if I kept my grades up. She would just let me have like mental health days or some shit. Now they call them mental health days. I just would go up to her and be like, I don't want to go to school today, because that would be a rare thing that I would say, I don't want to go to school today. And so, like, she would just be like, okay. And so I would skip like 1 or 2 days a semester and shit just cause. And I would just be laid up at home all day sleeping shit. Like, if I couldn't do that, like, and you just ditching and walking around the school and doing nothing, like, I'd rather be home watching TV and playing video games and cartoons and shit. Like, why would I just be outside on the school property or walking around in the neighborhood? Like, it just felt like a lot, and I just didn't want to be involved in it. So yeah, but like most teenagers go through this like invincible period where they literally, because their frontal lobes aren't fully developed, have no common sense, like barely any common sense when it comes to safety and it comes to like future thinking, like what could this action lead to in the future and shit like that, or emotional connections, or how something could potentially make them feel later on in life. And that's just a developmental thing. That's just teenagers and shit. But like people out here acting like these teenagers can just, you know, think like grown ass fucking people. These are kids. And so that's how I had to look at it. And then I was like, oh, okay, that's why when I first saw this, I thought this shit was stupid. I was just saying, like, why is she doing this? Why is she allowing it? But now I'm just like, it fits with the fact that she's a kid and she's emotional. And yeah, she knows stuff from books, but she don't know that she's still like, kids objectify more easily than adults do. And she ain't clocking that she's objectifying her brother as a superhero. Like low key it was like, as soon as I woke you up, now we gonna break into cars and like, no girl, like he needs to acclimate to the world and shit. What is you talking about? So anyways, like she loses track of where he's at, and come to find out they do some Candyman type shit. He's in the vacant, like empty apartment next to the baby mama's place, and there's a hole in the wall, and apparently the little sister been talking to him through the hole in the wall, and she noticed her talking to him one day, teaching him the alphabet and shit. Little kids, she just like, oh, that's all she knows, so she gonna teach him how to read because she learning how to read it. And I'm just looking at this girl like, you should have been teaching him how to talk. Like, that should have been the first thing you was doing, just having him chill, teach him how to talk. The nigga looked gross too, and I was just like, don't nobody want to be brought back looking like this. You doing this shit for yourself is selfish, girl. Don't nobody want to be brought back looking like, you couldn't have even make out what his face looked like. You couldn't. Like, I was squinting, I was trying to put it together. It was like looking at one of them pictures that optical illusions on Instagram where it's somebody's face or a dog's face, but because the dog was shaking his head or something, it looks all fucked up. So it's like you have to squint and turn your head to the side to make out that it's a dog's face shaking his head or some shit. And that's how his face looked. But no matter how much I squinted, looked to the side, I could not make out what his fucking face looked like. And it was fucking with me. And I was just like, you not thinking about other people and how they would feel being brought back to life with severe rot and injuries and shit. That shit's not gonna heal. Like, he's just gonna stay like that, girl. What did you do? She was 15, 16. She just wanted her brother back, and she wanted her brother to avenge himself and her dad or some childish shit. So is some childish shit. It is, and you just gotta be like, okay, when you got like children as the main character, you can't look at it as if you're looking at it as at an adult. That's how we be treating kids. We be looking at them like they're adults because they trigger shit inside of us that remind us of how we felt at that age and shit like that, or how it feels like we dealing with another adult or some shit because they triggered us and now we're angry and shit. No, it's a child. Like, it's just a child. This is the first time they've experienced this in the world and shit. Like, there are going to be so many firsts that children have. Like, kids will literally grieve over losing their first favorite toy because that's the first thing that they've ever lost in their life most of the time. And they will sob and cry over this little nasty ass ratty toy that they've been carrying around since they was an infant because it's lost or some shit like that. And the adults just be looking at them like, it's just a dirty ass, that's their friend. To them, that's their bestest friend that they loved, and now it's gone, and now they gotta grieve, just like we gotta grieve when somebody dies. And then we have these little moments of grief over and over again throughout our life, whether it be breakups of romantic relationships or breakups of friendships and things like that, to where eventually, like, those little moments of grief and being able to experience them and having people around us validate them and teach us how to validate them will prepare us for when we actually lose a person. And like, that's why you need to not make kids feel bad for feeling sad about losing a little ratty ass dirty toy they've been carrying around since they was a baby. But like, even in teenagers, like, the first time you have a friend break up in high school, like, that's gonna hurt you and shit because that's never happened to you before, most likely. The first time you break up with a partner in high school, the first time you get rejected by a crush, that shit's gonna crush you. Like, you just, and you gotta feel those feelings so you can learn to get used to that shit so it doesn't break you and shit. If you're never allowed to learn to get used to challenging feelings, every time you feel a challenging feeling, it's gonna fucking break you in half. But like, parents are not out here trying to just allow kids to feel challenging things because it challenges them when the kids feel challenging things, and then they can't handle their emotions around the kid feeling challenging things because nobody ever taught them how to validate their emotions and, you know, validated their emotions for them too. And so first, it just starts with learning how to validate your own challenging emotions. And just, like today, for example, like, I'm literally like PMSing. My period's about to start in 2 weeks. So I got the PMS depression. I got the seasonal affective disorder depression. And I'm just sitting up here like, why am I irritated? Why am I scrolling through Instagram and everything I look at is just like, this is stupid. Like, ugh, she's ugly. Like, that's so negative. Why am I doing that? And I was like, oh, because I'm about to start my shit and it gets doubly bad when it, you know, it's seasonal affective and shit. And so I literally just allowed myself to sit here and in my head make fun of people while I scroll through Instagram. It only took me 3 times to just allowing myself to do that before I was over it. I was like, okay, I feel a little better. You know, I didn't comment on nothing, like comment on people. Like, I'm not gonna like say shit to people. Like, no, this is for me. I just, in my head, was just letting myself do it. Like, fuck it. If I'm irritable, I'm just gonna be irritable. It is what it is, you know. And then learning how to like verbalize when I feel irritable and I just need some space with people that you know, are actually around me. Like, you know, I'm just kind of irritable right now. Like, just give me some space. And if somebody can't handle me saying that, that is not a reflection of me. That is a reflection of them not, you know, being triggered by boundaries. And that ain't got shit to do with me. But if you keep fucking with me, my irritability is going to turn into me saying some shit, and then we're going to have problems. So that's why, you know, I like to just give a warning and be like, you know, no, I'm not really, like, right now, I'm not, it's not that time right now. I need some space. But anyway, so basically this little girl finds out that the little sister knows about the brother and stuff, right? And so she's telling her to stay away from the brother because, you know, the brother killed the gang member and shit, or injured him badly. And the little girl's just like, you know, little kids, they just like, they don't be scared of nothing and shit. I was scared of shit even at her age. Like, don't come in my face all bloody and creepy and weird and shit. I'm not gonna ride with that. I don't give a fuck. That shit is creepy. But there are a lot of little kids that this the first time in the world, so they ain't never seen no shit like that, and their fear meters are not being sparked off, and it is what it is. So, anyways, she goes to she's also in trouble with the hoodlums in the projects, because I got mosquitoes in here and shit, and they bite me and shit, y'all. That's why I keep scratching, because that's the only meat that's hanging out, so they all around my feet and my hands. It's horrible. So she's around the she like, the hoodlums are mad at her. So this nigga named Kango, he's a little drug lord and shit. And you know what I liked? Her interactions with, like, the gang members. They didn't sexualize her. Like, in these types of movies, they would have been like being gross and weird and no, they just treated her mean and shit. Like she was just a little nigga. I mean, it's not better. Like, one of them niggas hit her in the face and shit. It's not better, but it's like, usually, like, any type of female around niggas like that. But the leader is like trying to tell the nigga that hit her not to hit her and stuff. Cause I'm gonna go with, he sees her as a kid too. Because there wasn't no sexual undertones or tensions in how he was interacting with her. So I'm just going to say that he was trying to protect her like that because he sees her as a kid too. And I like to see that in men, even in this situation where they was all up in her face and being fucked up and shit, because it's like, they didn't see her as a sexual object. And that was new. That was new. They was just like, this little nigga stole our drugs, and so now you got to cut the drugs and shit, so that, because you're a scientist or whatever the fuck. So she starts cutting the drugs and stuff, but they still looking for her homeboy that was with her, so they don't know who he is yet, right? So, like, at some point, what happens? At some point, I think, like, the police find this nigga, but he kills a police officer. And I was just like, at the first police officer that was killed, why wasn't the whole SWAT swarming the projects? Because no, that's what they do. Especially the projects. A police officer killed in the projects? No, them niggas is swarming. They coming in with a SWAT team. Like, two other officers came at some point, and he killed them niggas too. And I'm still like, she was able to go through a whole night and no other police showed up. It was just crickets and empty everywhere. I don't. But anyways, it wasn't realistic, but none of this shit is realistic. Like, you're not about to bring no niggas back to life with electricity, honey. I think, like, maybe around the time they invented defibrillators, or they found out that they could restart a heart with electricity or some shit, like, that's probably around the same time that Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein and was like, look, we can actually bring a whole body to life. And no, because your soul, like, you can't give someone their consciousness back. That's the crux of the issue, is you can't give somebody their consciousness, their personality, their soul back. You may be able to restart their body, but how you gonna put their soul and spirit and consciousness back into that body? It would really have to be like, we don't go nowhere and we just rot with our body. It would really have to be that way, but I don't think it's that way. There's too many people seeing ghosts and shit around for it to be that way. There's millions of people on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and YouTube talking about they seeing ghosts and shit. Like, it's too many ghosts going around to be like, oh, there's no afterlife. Okay, whatever. You believe what you want to believe, but I believe that there's an afterlife, and you can't restart a human body and somehow put their consciousness back into the body. I don't care what you're talking about. So anyways, like, she's sitting at home with her family at some point. This is all over the place because I'm trying to remember everything that happened. I took a nap and everything during the course of this, watching this shit. She's sitting at home with her family, and the police come knocking on the door. And they don't open the door, of course, because, the police ain't got a warrant. You don't get the privilege of having the door open and me coming outside or you coming into my place if you ain't got no fucking warrant. And so they basically do the whole thing where they tell the son not to talk to the police, and if you have to talk to the police, just tell them your name and that you're going home and that you don't know what's going on around in the neighborhood. And they don't open the door for the police. The police are trying to ask around for the cop that got killed. And they like, we don't know what's going on. We don't know what happened. And so these are the police officers that eventually get murdered by the brother, later on too. And so then this nigga like tries to go and meet his dad, and he's sitting in the room, like in his old room and shit, and his dad come in and he sees him and he's like, oh son, you're here and shit. And I guess he gets up and he's trying to hug his dad. And then his dad sees his face and is like, oh, you're not my son. And then tries to hit him in the head with a hammer and shit. And I'm just like, why wouldn't he do that? Like, this nigga broke into his house. He looking like a fucking monster. Like, he's coming at him. Like, I don't know. Like, why wouldn't your first intention be to protect yourself? Because this weird, crazy looking nigga is broken into your house and you don't know who the fuck he is. Like, I know the whole, like, oh, everyone treated him like a monster. That's why he killed his whole family. Like, no, nigga. Like, no, nigga. That's not, that's a leap and a jump and a bound and... He killed his whole family because they all treated him like a monster. Like, no, like, you didn't tell nobody that you brought this nigga back to life. Like, they don't know who he is. His face is all discombobulated and scrambled, and he's basically looking like he's a stranger breaking into people's houses. What exactly are you supposed to do? So basically, he ends up killing the dad. He killed Kango. He killed Kango henchman who tried to kill Kango. He killed the baby mama. He killed the baby mama's mom. He killed the brother. Like, he just killing everybody. And I'm just looking at this little girl. Like, I just keep trying to say, she's a child. She is a child. But this child done set off a whole wave of bullshit. So anyways, the little sister tells her the next morning after everything goes down, and she kills her brother with like another shot of electricity that was even stronger. I don't know, whatever. Can you bring our family back to life? And da-da-da-da-da. And so she goes and she gets the baby mama and brings her back to life. She got a butcher knife behind her back just in case she goes and starts wilding out and shit. And she's like, fine. She knows who she is because she's fresh. Her brain hasn't deteriorated into mush yet. And so then she decides at the end of the movie to bring everybody else back to life and stuff. And I'm just like, do their wounds heal? Like, even the baby came back to life. So do their wounds like heal? Or like, what happens for the people with the like intense fatal wounds? Or like if this nigga like hit them in the head and crushed their skull and shit, like what happens to them ones? Like, I'm assuming he just strangles the whole family. I don't know. But like, she brought everybody back to life. And I'm just like, ugh. I just don't believe in like coming back after you dead. I just feel like people that die, they need to rest. Like, they get to not be here anymore. Like, they get to be in heaven, like chilling, relaxing, like on what dreams may come and shit. That's how I envision it. Like, you just create your own heaven and shit. Like, I just feel like, why are you, like, she brought her brother back to deal with human shit. Like, for what? He could have been just floating around in heaven, chilling, having a good time, and you just yanked him back down just to steal some drugs out of a car. He could have been floating in a pool of ambrosia. It just don't feel right. I just feel like when people are dead, that's their chance to get away from all this and rest. And calling them back to come back to deal is selfish. I just feel like it's selfish. Like, I just hope all my ancestors and the people that have died in my life, I know the shit that they went through while they was alive. They deserve to fucking rest. And I just want them to rest. I just want them to be enjoying the afterlife, never having to deal with white supremacy, never having to deal with the other shit. Like that's why I believe in God, because that's what God's for. Like, him and his angels and shit. That's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to come back and make sure that we safe and doing all that shit. Like, I just feel like everybody else, they need to be resting. Like, when I'm dead, I'm not coming back down here to do nothing. I'm going to be enjoying my time floating in the pool of ambrosia, enjoying just the space and the clear air and just whatever it is on the other side that just is relaxing and nice. Like, I don't want to come back. Like, I don't want to be reincarnated. I don't want to be around these fucking white people. And if you call me down here because your baby daddy is the girl, you shouldn't have got with that nigga. I don't know what the fuck to tell you. Yeah, you should have got with him. I don't. Why you calling me back? Like, I'm not. God. Tell God that he may smite that nigga and kill him and some shit. I don't fucking know. And I'm not trying to down people that like believe in their ancestors and things like that. Like, but just for me personally, it just feels like wrong to call back people to like help you with human shit when they have dealt with human shit their whole life and now they finally get to rest and you want them to do more shit that involves dealing with human shit. Like, for me, I just don't. I just would love for you to rest. Like, I know how my mom struggled with cancer like twice and shit, and it was destroying her body, and it was painful, and it was horrible, and she was basically tortured to death. And I just am happy that she is away from all of that. And I don't want her to help me with nothing. I just want her to be relaxed and chilling in the pool of ambrosia and whatever the fuck is on the other side and not dealing with these white people and these niggas that were trifling in her lifetime. And I just don't want that for her. Like, I don't want that for my grandmother. I don't want that for anybody in my life who's passed away. I don't want you to have to keep dealing with this shit because it's supposed to be over when you're dead. And to me, anyways, it's supposed to be over when you're dead. And you calling niggas back to deal with it some more? Like, it's not for me. But like, especially not as a fucking zombie with your body rotting off and shit. Like, we still aren't sure if the people that she brought back, if those wounds on them will actually heal or if they'll just keep rotting. Like, nobody's sure about that. Like, so I'm just like, But like that, like I said, that's just a personal thing for myself. I don't want none of y'all to be like, well, why are you? No, like, do you? I believe everyone should have their own different beliefs and religions and stuff like that. It may just be my mind and my neurodivergency over analyzing and over logicalizing shit, but like, you supposed to be done with this shit. Like, I don't want to come back. I don't want to help my future generations do nothing because I should have already set them up while I was alive to be okay. I should have taught them the things that they need to know and left them the money they need to have, and they should be fine. And so, like, you don't need to call me back for nothing. Call on Jesus. Call on the Lord. There's so many deities that you could call on. You don't even gotta be God or Jesus. For me it is, but it ain't even gotta be. There's so many deities and things that you could call on that are set up just for those situations to help you with some shit. Why are you calling on people that have been suffering their whole life and now they gotta suffer through some more shit to make sure I don't feel like it. I'm not calling on my ancestors to do shit. Like, you just rest. Please rest. Please relax and enjoy the streets paved with gold and the mansions made out of diamonds and whatever the fuck else is supposed to be up there for you to relax and sleep and enjoy. Please rest. I wish I would see a ghost. I would probably have a heart attack. I'd be telling God, I'd be like, please don't send me a ghost. I don't, because it's not anything outside of physics. I don't think my brain is set up to look at that yet. I feel like I'm just too afraid. That could also be it too. Like, I'm just too afraid. Like, it's death. Like, death is scary. I don't, like, where do you go? What happens? Like, I don't want to, just lean on the Lord. That's what I'm going to do. And y'all do what you gonna do that works for you. Like I said, this ain't no like I ain't trying to make nobody feel bad or judge nobody's shit. This is just me personally. No, because you gotta say shit like that because people be like, oh, well, no, I don't think this for everybody. I think this for myself. I think whatever works for you works for you. Your ancestors probably love coming down to help you and do stuff and be around you and you petition them and they do an amazing job with the petition. But for me personally, I want them to be happy. and resting like they should. Because once this is over, it needs to be over. This shit is torture. I don't want none of my ancestors coming back to this shit and dealing with none of it ever again. Because the thought of that happening to them means that when I die, it's going to happen to me. And I don't want to come back to I don't care. I don't want to be reincarnated. I just want to be a spirit in heaven, just in my diamond mansion with my paved gold streets. Just living the life, and it just magical, that's all I want to do. And I want everybody to just be okay, so I don't have to ever be called on or petitioned. I don't petition me. But yeah, it was, I don't want, it's not a bad movie, it's just irritating how she handles things sometimes, and the fact that you have to actively remind yourself that she's a child and this is how a child would handle shit. So I guess it was a okay movie. It was an okay movie, and it illustrated like hood trauma and how deep it can go, and it illustrated grief, and it illustrated like, I wouldn't call her a sociopath, even though what she was doing was some gruesome shit. But it illustrates the lengths that trauma can take you to where it don't make no motherfucking sense. Except for to you. And so I guess that's what I'll say. But she did have PTSD though, and she did have grief, and she just was doing some gruesome ass shit, but it came out fine. Like she brought him back to life, but it was too late for him. He was rotten and shit. Like his body was deteriorating. Like he couldn't. Half his brain was gone because he was shot in the head, honey. Like he was already. It's like if you get hit in the head and you go into a coma and shit, and you wake up and then you got like brain damage and shit. So now it's like you got the mind of a fifth grader and shit. Where before it was like you had the mind of the 25-year-old that you were. Now you got the mind of a fifth grader. I mean, I'm assuming that it's the same theoretical process for her brother she brought back to life because he was shot in the face. And so, it was an okay movie. And I don't know what I'm going to do next week. We'll see. Maybe I'll do Wicked. Like I said, I'm going to go on my resources, and I'm not giving that woman no money. I don't like entertaining people that obviously have fully stated that they don't like my culture and the things that people in my culture have experienced. I don't hate her. I just don't fuck with people like that. I don't fuck with people like that wear my culture as a mask and like it's a costume, and don't take my culture seriously. Because the thing is, Black Americans, African Americans, whatever you want to call yourself, we had to create a culture out of nothing. They stole everything from us, and then we had to create culture out of nothing. And there's so many different variations of Black American culture all over the United States based on what state and what city and what county that you grew up in, to just have it looked at as if it was trash, but then you take it and you try to wear it yourself, even though at the same time you're calling it trash. Like, that shit bothers the fuck out of me, and I don't fuck with people like that. That's it. Like, I just don't fuck with people like that. I don't fuck with Aquafina. I don't watch none of her fucking movies. And I don't fuck with Cynthia Erivo, but I like Wicked. And so I would implore you, if you do watch the movie, there are free resources online where you can watch the movie and not give money to whatever the fuck she's doing. Because no, I gatekeep, and I love my people, and I love the African diaspora as a whole. Like, I'm not gonna sit up here and talk about people in Africa and the Caribbean, and no, we're all the same people in different ways, and we all have our own beautiful cultures. And I'm not gonna sit up here and down how somebody represents from their culture, even though we look alike. Like, I'm not gonna, why would I do that? So it's not, it don't got nothing to do with her being African. It don't got nothing to do with none of her cultural shit. It's got to do with her talking shit about my culture and using it as a joke while wearing it as a costume. I don't fuck with people like that. Because I respect your culture. I think it's beautiful. I think African culture, various different countries, all the stuff they be doing in them various different, I think all that shit is beautiful and shit. And you over there thinking my culture's a joke. No, nigga, like that ain't right. That ain't right. So if I do review that shit, just know that I watched it online for free. I'm not giving her fucking money. I don't want any of my money going into that woman's pocket. I'm sure she's gonna make millions off of this shit. Apparently, she got paid less than Ariana Grande, even though like the stories about Elphaba, Ariana Grande is the sidekick. Um, but you know, whatever. You accepted less, so whatever. No, I don't care. You accepted less. You didn't fight for more. That ain't got shit to do with me. Hopefully, you got royalties. You know, just like the little nigga from the Lion King. He's still getting royalties off that movie and shit. The one that sang the song of not Mufasa. What's the Simba, the one that sang the Simba songs and shit in the movie and shit. The little black kid. What's his name? I forgot his name, but he sang the songs, and his mom said we want the royalties, and so he got the royalties, and he's still getting the royalties, and that's a vibe. So you know, she'll probably get royalties and all this other shit. But yeah, so but anyways, I hope you enjoyed this review. Let me know what you think. And once again, I am not trying to be offensive to anyone's religious beliefs. It's just shit based on me and what I've seen and how I've seen black people in general just be tortured in this world. And I just don't personally want to add any extra torture in the next world. I'd rather you just be resting and relaxing. And if I need some shit, I'm gonna ask God and the angels and shit. Like, I don't know, like that shit is petty. Like, compared to the rest and relaxation they getting in heaven and shit like that, the shit I would be asking for, the help I would be asking for would be petty. Like, I don't care if I'm like a nigga fucked me over, or I got hit by a car, or I'm about to be impoverished, or whatever the fuck. It compared to being in the gracious beauty of the afterlife that's supposed to be heaven, all that shit is petty. And so for me personally, I just don't believe in bringing people back to life. I don't believe in, talking to the dead and bothering them with stuff that shouldn't even matter to them. Like, that's just for me personally. But if that's your stuff and you have a good relationship with your ancestors and you do all of that, that's not a bad thing. It's just not something that I do. So hope I don't have a bunch of people coming on here and be like, why are you talking shit about my ancestry? I'm not talking shit about your ancestral work, honey. I'm just saying that shit ain't for me. And now I'm explaining why it's not for me personally. That's all I'm saying. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this review. And let me know what you think. And thank you for continuing to watch my videos. And later days.